Hello to all my dear friends and welcome back to Turkish series stars. I hope you are feeling great and ready to dive into a tale that has had so many of us holding our breath. Today we revisit a journey of love, hesitation, bravery, and above all, a turning point that reshaped everything for two names we know so well, Akın and Ebru. The title tells you exactly where we are headed. Becoming Akın, the final confession, and the instant that changed everything. Prepare to feel those familiar butterflies, to remember the scenes that made you argue with the screen, to walk again through the storm and finally reach the calm that so many were waiting for. Before we get lost in the emotion, a quick reminder from the heart. If you have not yet joined our community, now is the perfect moment to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss one of our stories. Your support keeps this space alive, and it means everything to us here at Turkish Series Stars. So, where do we begin with this pair that captured a whole audience's imagination the very first time their names were said in the same breath? Akın and Ebru. Two public figures who carry in their gaze a storm of unspoken words, who can stand in silence and somehow tell 1,000 stories. From the earliest days, we watched energy crackle in the air between them, a mix of tenderness and stubbornness, of trust tested by fame's noise and the delicate fragility of private hearts living under bright lights. There were stretches of calm and bursts of thunder. It was a love that kept finding its footing, even when schedules burned late into the night and rumors nipped at their heels. We have followed them from first spark to the season of questions. We remember the smiles that came easily at the beginning, the long looks at rehearsals, the jokes traded between scenes, the way a tiny break between takes felt like a world made for two. But we also remember when the rhythm shifted. When one was on a plane and the other was caught up in a marathon of interviews. When a look became guarded. When answers came a little too late, or not at all. The misunderstandings that might seem small from the outside can grow very tall when you are tired and proud and scared of losing the person who makes the whole chaotic world make sense. In the center of it all is a confession, the last confession, the one that could not be postponed. It did not arrive one lazy afternoon over coffee. It did not wear a casual smile. It came at the edge of a complicated night, in a room that felt familiar and foreign at once, after words had already stung and quiet had thrown a heavy blanket over the furniture. No more waiting. No more pretending the air was not heavy with what needed to be said. At some point the truth pressed so hard that it could not fit inside either of them anymore. This was not a basic I love you, though love pulsed under every syllable. This was a laying down of defenses, an unmasking shaped by months of swallowed thoughts and half-answered calls. It looked like courage because that is what it was. A person does not risk breaking everything unless they are trying to save it. Picture the lights low, the city outside acting as soundtrack, the ring of a phone intentionally ignored because the only call that mattered was the one between two pairs of eyes. What exactly was confessed? Think of everything we have seen, everything that was hinted at between the lines. Perhaps it was a reckoning with the past, the way old wounds sneak into new rooms uninvited. Perhaps it was an apology for words said in anger, or for a wall built brick by brick out of fear. Or perhaps, and this possibility hums like an electric current, it was the admission that one of them had been counting exits instead of entrances. That the fear of forever had become louder than the promise of it. A confession like that is not tidy. It is a hand opening, palm up, saying I could lose you with this, but I cannot keep pretending not to feel it. And there was the other side too. A confession needs a witness. It becomes real only when someone hears it, holds it, answers it. So we imagine the reaction, because that is where the story pivoted. Not in the describing, but in the receiving. Did Akın allow the armor to fall, the one that has protected him in a world that always wants more? Did Ebru meet those words without flinching, choosing to be vulnerable right back? Sometimes love looks like fire. Sometimes it looks like two people pausing long enough to say I see you, and I am still here. That was the moment that changed everything. Not the dramatic declaration alone, but the breath that followed. The soft yes that can live inside a gaze. The quiet I know threaded inside a touch. A single gesture can reroute an entire future. Imagine a hand reaching across the table, cutting through all the distance that had settled like fog. Imagine one heartbeat finding the next and matching its pace. There, in the stillness, something shifted. The room did not explode into applause. No cameras flashed. The life outside did not stop to ask for a quote. But inside that small space, doubt loosened its grip and two people decided to be brave at the same time. It happened where most turning points do, after the noise had spent itself. Maybe there were tears that did not need to be hidden anymore. Maybe there were words that would never trend, because they were not for the world. Maybe they were seated on a couch that had seen them laugh and argue and fall asleep after too many long days. The exact place matters less than the choice made within it. This was radical acceptance, the kind that does not insist on perfection, the kind that says I will take all of you and ask that you take all of me. Fear did not disappear. It never really does. But it was no longer driving the car. For Akın, this might have been the unshackling of expectations he did not even realize he was hauling behind him. The recognition that strength is not silence, and that the man Ebru loved was not the one holding everything in until it hardened. For Ebru, it might have been the restoration of faith in a shared tomorrow, even with the knowledge that careers have seasons, that public life can be merciless, that love asks for tenderness exactly when you are most tempted to armor up. They did not promise the impossible. They promised the real. Think about the signals that told us, even from afar, that something had shifted. The absence of deflection in their eyes when asked about each other. The way their laughter returned without that fraction of a second hesitation. The noticeable calm that replaces performance when a person stops managing an image and starts living the truth. It was not a grand, cinematic spectacle. It was two people returning to the center, together. The most powerful moments in a relationship often arrive quietly. No fireworks. No thunderous soundtrack. Just the subtle recognition that the person across from you matters more than the fear that has been holding you hostage. That night, the confession was answered with a kind of honesty that can only come from standing on the edge and choosing not to jump alone. One reached out, the other reached back, and the distance retreated like a tide leaving the shore. Of course, that realization did more than mend a bond. It transformed how they saw themselves. When you decide to stop pretending to be invincible, you become freer. When your apology is accepted and your vulnerability met without punishment, you begin to breathe differently. The work does not end there. It never does. But the foundation shifts. Suddenly the arguments do not spiral into old scripts. The calendar no longer feels like a rival. Promises become gentle, everyday things, like an early morning text or a quiet ride home after a long day, like sharing a schedule instead of protecting it, like asking for help before resentment builds. It would be easy to assume that a confession must come with a plot twist to matter. That someone must have been hiding a secret worthy of a headline. But what makes this one decisive is not scandal. It is sincerity. Two careers that demand excellence. Two hearts that were tired of pretending not to need anything. Two people who realized that the bravest thing they could do was say it all, every sharp and tender piece, and stay. The beauty of a love story like this is how it reminds us of what really sustains connection. Not a perfect public image. Not rehearsed answers. Communication that starts late is still better than silence that never ends. Courage that shakes is still courage. And love that chooses to remain, even after disappointment, is stronger than the kind that never meets resistance. The final confession drew a line in the sand between the way things were and the way they could be. The moment that followed built a bridge and invited both to step forward. Let us trace the day after. These are the details that tell you everything without saying a word. The coffees that did not go cold because conversations were not cut short. The rehearsals where concentration came easier because the mind was not carrying a secret weight. A press appearance where a single shared glance said we made it through. These are not accidents. This is what happens when honesty is met with grace. We talk about turning points as if they are singular events, but what happened for Akın Akinozu and Ebru was also a choice they keep making. It began that night with "I am afraid and I am sorry and I love you and I do not want to lose this." It continues in the way they rearrange a day to make room for a walk, in the way one listens all the way through without rehearsing the answer, in the way they do not weaponize yesterday when a new misunderstanding arrives. Turning points last only as long as we keep turning toward each other. And so, while the world spins and the lights demand fresh stories, there is a quiet, steady rhythm underneath. The confession did not remove the pressure of the spotlight. It did not close the mouths of rumor. But it armed them with something bigger than noise. It set them on the same side of the table. It reminded them that they had always been better as a team, that winning does not mean never being afraid, it means refusing to let fear dictate the story. Before we close, let us gather the threads of what we lived again today. We revisited the connection between Akın and Ebru, that spark forged in shared work and strengthened, then tested, by time and expectation. We followed them through the doubts and the distances, the silences that said too much, and the apologies that said exactly what needed saying. We studied the final confession, not as spectacle, but as an act of bravery that stripped away pretense. We watched the moment that followed, that quiet pivot when acceptance met truth and both decided to stay. The story did not end in a grand declaration, it began anew in a room made sacred by honesty. What about you, dear friends? Which confession do you believe mattered most? Was it the apology for pulling away, or the admission of fear, or the promise to stop building walls? And what, in your eyes, was the instant that shifted the ground beneath them? Was it a look that did not waver, a word spoken softly but with the weight of everything, a hand that refused to let go? I am eager to read your thoughts, your interpretations, your favorite moments. You always notice the details that remind us why we love telling these stories. If this journey made you feel something, if it reminded you of the power of honesty in any relationship, do not forget to click like. Share this video with the friends who have followed Akın and Ebru with the same mixture of excitement and concern. And of course, if you have not already, subscribe to Turkish Series Stars and tap the bell, so you do not miss what comes next. Thank you for your time, your support, and your heart. We will be here again soon, ready to walk the next story with you, one moment at a time. Until the next video, stay kind to your own heart, and remember that the quietest truths are often the ones that change everything.